Hey, world history, Caleb here. Today we're here to talk about the Russian Revolution, as the video title states. Now, to begin our journey, we start in World War I. Now, what? What's that? We need to go further? Ugh, fine. Alright, how about the 1800s? Alright, the 1800s. Oh, the 1800s. It was a really great century. It was a simpler time. The invention of the battery, steam locomotive, and who can forget the iconic life expectancy? 40 for men, 42 for women, if you could ever really make it that long, since, so many kids were dying. Anyways, another thing the 1800s brought us was the life, death, and ideas of Karl Marx. Marx, a man not simply known by his name, but as said his ideas. Now, most are familiar with his Communist Manifesto, written in 1848 with the help of German thinker Friedrich Engels. Now, his ideas would never be fully realized in actual government, no sir. That would take about 70 years to happen in the government of Russia. But before we get to that, let's talk about Tsar Nicholas II. Tsar Nicholas II was the dictator of Russia for quite some time under Romanov family rule. However, his time seemed to have been coming to a close in the early 1900s. You see, it all started in 1904 when the Russo-Japanese War started, when Japan attacked the eastern side of Russia for landed control in the exact same spot that the Russians were trying to further the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Now, this would be a problem on its own. However, Russia was a powerhouse, not to be defeated by a few mere attacks from the island of Japan, so retaliation was in order. Now, in a year's time, the tables had flipped more violently than they ever had before in that region, and Japan was holding up against this Goliath at the time, which had never been done before, causing some serious problems for the Tsar. So many problems, in fact, that the opinion was so low that a revolution was called for. However, this would be a 360 revolution, resulting in the exact same spot that they started. Fast forward to the Great War, the War of the Nations, the war to end all wars. Spoiler, it doesn't end all wars. World War I was fought on two major sides, the Central Powers and the Allies. The Allies being made up of France, Britain, Russia, and later the United States, and the Central Powers being comprised of Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Germany. Now, Russia was still in great disarray, and the Tsar was in no better position than before. Enter in the Bolsheviks and Vladimir Lenin. Lenin, not part of the Beatles, was the leader of the Bolsheviks and the starter of the Russian Communist Party, and had two main people behind him, Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin. Remember them, they're important later. As time went on, Russian people either went to serve from the goodness of their hearts or because they were forced to, and either came back in body bags or never came back at all. In both cases, it was usually the second one. The need for real revolution was strong yet again under the reign of Tsar Nicholas II. Enter in the year of 1917, where the war was getting brisk and the need for a new political head was at its highest with the Russian Civil War. In the month of February, or March, wait, what? Oh, wait, why? Okay, well apparently the Russians were still using the Julian calendar and not the common Gregorian calendar we use today. It was called the February and October revolutions for the use of the Julian calendar when in fact they were a month behind, so for dating purposes we're going to stay on the Gregorian calendar. So in March, rioting in the streets of the Russian capital St. Petersburg started and forced the Tsar to step down, causing the first lapse in Romanov rule. This was the perfect opportunity for the Bolsheviks to try and take over the country, and try they did in July. However, they were stopped by the Whites. That's not racist, I promise. The Whites being a group for the traditional Tsars, and the Bolsheviks called themselves the Reds, giving us a civil war from the Reds and Whites. Over the following months, the capital with no true ruler fell into ruin, and most people that previously supported the Tsar had been flipped to the Bolsheviks. In October, however, Lenin convinced the Bolsheviks they should try to attack once more, and with little resistance on November 6th and 7th, the Bolsheviks were the government. The initial years were good for Russia, and Lenin had communism put on full scale for the first time ever, giving Karl Marx what he wanted all along. However, what was truly in store for Russia had not been revealed. Shortly after the revolution, a civil war began between the Reds or Bolsheviks and the Whites or anti-Bolsheviks, setting up turmoil in the country yet again. With the Bolsheviks being the main power but not fully realized as government rulers, other countries saw this as an opportunity for the government to flip. Since this was the case, the Americans sent over 20,000 people to help the anti-Bolsheviks. They tried and tried, but they were unsuccessful, and Lenin was uncontested afterward, and the Civil War ended in 1920. During this time, however, on the night of July 16, 1918, the Romanov family was
brutally assassinated to stop the line from ever coming back into power, leaving the country at two drastically different sides, either feeling good about the Bolsheviks really taking over or understanding that the Tsars would never really come back into power like they had been for so long, giving us a true revolution with some amount of degrees that isn't 360 or 0. At the end of the Civil War, when the Bolsheviks remained alone in power, Lenin had severe health problems, something that the Russians did not expect or want, as he was highly respected and still is to this day. Then, in 1923, his political power had virtually vanished, with his health disabling his ability to properly speak or walk, and with it came the two people to choose from to continue rule, Trotsky or Stalin. Sadly, this would not be Lenin's choice to make, and he died quietly in 1924, and his remains remain in Moscow. R.I.P. Lenin. With Lenin dead and the need for a new leader, the power-hungry Stalin rushed into the spot and then accused Leon Trotsky of being a traitor, from which Trotsky fled the scheme. It wouldn't be until later that Stalin and Trotsky would meet again. Well, Stalin wasn't really there. He just sent his agents to assassinate him in Mexico. Nice. Then Stalin would reign into World War II and later died of health issues in 1953. So, there you have it. The Russian Revolution, coming with the rise of communism and the Bolsheviks and the fall of the Romanov family and the Tsars. This has been World History with Caleb, and as always, thanks for watching.